welcome back to another video of cooking. It is October, which means that we're going to make something fun, and I want to say creepy or scary or spooky, but I think it's erring on the side of, if any of those descriptors, spooky. Today we're going to be making breadstick bones. That's going to be another recipe from the Baking All Year Round cookbook by Rosanna Pansino, and I am very excited because I love bread, and these are just essentially cheesy breadsticks, but they are in the shape of bones, and they have garlic powder in them, and on top of them mixed with like cheese, and I'm just very excited, and I'm so happy that it's October. Even though I live in Florida where it's still hot, that's why I'm in short sleeves and shorts, which makes me sad. It is October, and hopefully soon it will be getting into a very fall feeling, and I love Halloween. It is my favorite holiday. So let's get into food! The ingredients you're going to need for this recipe are some active dry yeast. I'm using this yeast that I have in a jar that usually works for breads. Some whole milk, some water, about 1/4 cup, some granulated sugar, some mashed potatoes that are just boiled potatoes mashed up, no buttermilk or anything extra, 4 tablespoons of butter, unsalted, 1 egg, all-purpose flour, some bread flour, some garlic powder, salt, and olive oil, just enough to coat a bowl for when we prove our dough. For the topping, what you're going to need is some more garlic powder, another 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter, and some grated Asiago cheese. So for this recipe, I'm actually going to be employing a stand mixer. I love stand mixers. They make things so much easier. So in the bowl of the mixer, I'm going to be combining my 1/4 cup warm water, 1/4 cup warm whole milk, 1 1/4 teaspoons of my yeast, and 2 tablespoons of my sugar. And I'm just going to whisk that together. Once we have let our yeast bloom and get all foamy in our bowl of the stand mixer, we are going to add in our mashed potatoes, egg, and 4 tablespoons of butter, but we're going to melt it first. So while that is sitting in the mixer bowl, we are going to take our all-purpose flour, bread flour, and garlic powder, and we're going to whisk those together in a medium-sized bowl. A 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder really doesn't seem like a lot, but I can at least definitely smell it, even in a mixture of a lot of 2 other flours. So now once we have whisked this all together, we are going to add 1/2 cup to our stand mixer bowl. Just like that. And then we're going to stir this together. We're going to stir this together until a thick paste forms, and I'm going to be scraping down the sides of the bowl as it's going, just because it's getting caught up and the whisk isn't connecting everything in. So I'm just going to scrape down the sides and keep going. Okay, so I would say that is about a thick paste formed in the bowl of the stand mixer. So now with that having happened, I'm going to beat in the salt and the remaining flour 1/4 cup at a time until it's completely gone. At this point, I ended up switching to a dough hook away from the whisk because as the dough started to form, I didn't want it to all get caught up in the whisk and entangle, and then I would have to kind of rip it apart to get it off. So I switched to a dough hook as it started to get a little, well, doughier. I'm worried because the dough seems to be a dough that could bake on its own right now, but I've still got more flour, and I just added 1/4 cup that hasn't mixed in yet. I didn't forget something, but I don't know if I might just be thinking wrong. It might need to be crumblier. I don't know. The dough hook definitely makes it harder to add things into this bowl. So now I'm just going to turn the dough out of the bowl and put it onto my lightly floured surface. I just cleared a little area in the middle because I really don't want this dough to pick up much more flour because it looks so crumbly still. But now what I'm going to do is just try to knead it all together and hope that it sticks. It's actually, okay, it's starting to feel like a dough now. I really don't like messing up bread because I really like bread. Okay, now that we have our block, well, our little ball of dough, I'm going to grab a bowl. All right, now that we have kneaded our dough and it is a nice little ball ready to sit and take a rest, I'm going to grab a bowl and put some olive oil into it. Ooh, that was way too much. And then I'm just gonna spread it around to evenly coat the entirety of the bowl, which as you saw is no problem since I put a lot in here. All right, and now I'm just going to plop the dough into the bowl, and I'm gonna roll it around to evenly coat it with the oil. And then I will cover it with a clean dish towel, and we're going to let it sit for 1 to 2 hours. I'm gonna err on the side of 90 minutes, so that way it's right in the middle of the recommended time. While the dough is completing its rise, I am leaving this surface lightly floured because when we take our dough out, we're gonna turn it back onto a floured surface. So meanwhile, I'm going to take 2 cookie sheets, line them with parchment paper, and then I'm gonna set my oven to 350 degrees to preheat so that by the time I've rolled out and have the breadsticks ready, they can just go right in the oven. Now that our dough has risen, I'm going to uncover it, and it looks large, much larger than it was. And so now I'm just gonna flop it onto the floured surface. And then what we're going to do is we're going to divide it into 18 little round balls. So I'm gonna really stretch out this dough and try to get it. It's definitely got a definite, like, different feeling from normal bread dough. It's much more malleable and it'll hold the shape more. I really hope that me doing this isn't just like pressing all the air out and ruining it, but I'm doing it anyway because it feels like it's what I should do. But I'm just gonna cut it up into 18 little pieces like that. And once you've rolled out each ball, I don't know if this is too small, but once you've rolled it out, we're going to keep them under a clean cloth, probably the one that you proved with, and we're just going to keep it covered to prevent a skin from forming. I ended up deciding not to use a bench scraper just because it was easier to tear away the dough and start to roll it into a ball. So now that I have all of the balls rolled, and I actually ended up getting, I believe, 22 out of the dough instead of just the 18 that was in the book. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take each little ball and I'm going to roll it out into like a rope, but trying to do it so that the middle gets thinner, but the outside gets thicker so that I can cut into them and essentially make it look like a bone. This is stupid hard. So once it has been rolled out to kind of look like a bone, honestly, this is really hard and I don't know if I'm doing it right. But what you're going to do is take a pair of scissors and just cut it. And you're gonna do that to the rest of your little dough balls. The variance in sizes is incredible. One looks like a bow tie. These are gonna be a little bit deformed, I'm afraid. So now that I have all my breadsticks spread across 2 baking sheets, they look not uniform and very weird and not at all like the book. The book has them nice and smooth looking breadsticks that are rolled out perfectly. These are twisted and mangled and splitting, and they're just, it's gonna be an adventure. But I'm going to let them sit for another 15 minutes covered so that they do not form a skin. And then we're going to bake them. Now that my breadsticks are done resting, I am going to pop them into the oven for 12 to 14 minutes or until golden brown. I hope they come out better than they look. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to take a teaspoon of garlic powder and we're going to combine that with our other 4 tablespoons of butter that have been melted. And I'm just going to use a whisk to combine it all together. So we're on to our last step. If you take a nice glance over these breadsticks, they are very interesting. But I'm just going to brush them down with the butter and garlic powder mixture we have, and then I'm going to sprinkle the Asiago on them, and that'll be it. Here are the finished breadstick bones. They are cute, they came out into a nice little shape, except for the fact that half of them look much worse than that one, and they're all different shapes and sizes, and they don't look as smooth and nice as the ones in the cookbook. The ones in the cookbook have a nice finish, they're all even, and mine are not like that. However, mine look like they are still a good piece of bread, and I'm going to try one, and I'm very excited. That came right apart. That's really good bread. It's really good bread. It's a very specific thing that it reminds me of, and that is, if you ever went to Carrabba's as a kid, and they used to give you the dough that you could play with, and then they would go bake it, it tastes just like that dough. I consider this a success in the baking department and the taste department, not so much in the decoration department. This does not look great. Like you see, you got that one, and then like this one. And they look different and bad. And the bottoms look like that. And that's actually the scariest part about this recipe is how wrong they look. But they still taste great. I really like them. And you can surprisingly taste the garlic in them. It's very subtle, but it's there. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, leave a like or even a comment or even subscribe if you'd like to see more cooking things from me. This was really fun, and I'm really happy I made these for October, and I will be making more themed treats soon. Bye-bye!